Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on this final webinar in this exciting series brought to you by Ride to Conquer Cancer sponsor KPMG. KPMG has been a national sponsor of the ride since 2010 and a top fundraising team year after year. The ride is just a few short weeks away, so we have some great panelists today who will provide you with some insightful last minute fundraising and training tips. You'll also hear some helpful on event reminders as we near the ride weekend. I'd like to introduce our speakers today. Jennifer Knight will be speaking to you about last minute fundraising tips and on event reminders. And Pete Stace Smith, our Norco ambassador, the official bike partner of the ride, will give you last minute training and bike tips. Please stick around for a supercharged Q&A session where you can submit your questions at the end of this webinar. So if you take a look at your control panel there on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll be able to submit your questions. Feel free to type in those questions at any point during the webinar. We'll try to answer those for you at the end. We're also going to be joined by Ride to Conquer Cancer specialist during that Q&A session, Julian Brown, who will be able to provide you with more insight into on-event logistics. Folks, we are recording the webinar today, so next week you'll be able to tell your friends, family, and teammates to watch the webinar if they weren't able to join us today. And that's going to be on the Ride Map to Success page and on the Ride to Conquer Cancer YouTube page, so you'll be able to watch it again. Thank you again for joining us, and I would like to invite Jennifer to kick it off for us. Jennifer, you there?
Yes, I am.
Very good.
Fantastic. Can you see me?
I
Yeah?
cannot, but I can hear you, and that's just fine. We'll start.
Oh, okay. I thought I had my camera on, but anyway, it's Jennifer. Hello, everybody. It is business development from right here, downtown Vancouver in beautiful British Columbia today. We've got a gorgeous afternoon. It's Wednesday, and so excited for our final KPMG webinar, part 3 series. Can you believe it? So ultimately, as we've got you all captivated and excited, we are counting down with 17 days left to ride. So our fundraising in the final home stretch is right here. So with that said, we're going to move to the next slide, and I just want to share a couple things with you of potential ideas and things that we can do to inspire our teams and enroll them in getting out in those last final moments and these last final days. So if you haven't hit your final goal or your minimum yet, you're not alone. We have other riders that are riding along with you in that exact same kind of group, so to speak. So these are our recommendations moving forward in these final 17 days. You want to follow up. So my request to you is to ask again and remind those who said, yeah, I'd love to donate, but they haven't done that yet. They are ultimately looking and seeking on you to actually come back to them and make that request. You want to update your social media with a countdown clock showing 17 days, 16 days, 15 days. And ultimately within there, you love and should put your progress. So how many kilometers did you bike? One of my colleagues just wrote me yesterday and said, I just did 80K yesterday with her sister. So how amazing is that, right? Let people know what you're up to. Let them know where you are and where you stand in your fundraising. If you're just shy of a couple $100, let people know that. You'd be surprised who would jump in to help to support to make that happen, getting you to your goal prior to ride. You can link your Map My Ride to Facebook and to Twitter. Commenting on your ride has a lot of appeal, and obviously people are along for the journey, so make them feel included. Creating a challenge or offering an incentive is always fun if you have that ability to do so. We're recommending now that we're in summer, because of a change date, let's maximize on that opportunity. So whether that is, an ice cream sale, or whether it's a lemonade stand, something done in office like a bake sale, if you do a summertime car wash, or perhaps you want to do a barbecue, things that you can do in office or within your community that maybe step outside of the opportunities that were given to us prior when Ride was back in June. Right? So let's take an opportunity to really enthuse our donors, get people excited along with the ride for us, and ultimately helping top us up in those fundraising efforts. In the next slide, you will see if you haven't reached your $2,500 minimum, this happens. And again, what we would recommend is still to go on and complete your online check-in. It's really important that that gets done. It's going to expedite that morning, Saturday the 29th, coming up and standing in line, fingers crossed, sunny and gorgeous, enabling you an opportunity to really connect with riders, share stories, have a laugh versus standing in line waiting for your jersey and information. So the final deadline for that is ultimately August the 16th. You need to complete your online check-in. That needs to be done by that date. And with that said, it is a 9-step process. It is 10 minutes long. It requires your passport. A safety video is mandatory. And then further to that, you will be asked, if you have not reached your minimum, how would you like to commit? You can choose either an instant self-pledge, which is an instantaneous self-donation from your credit card, ultimately saying, right now I'm ready to go. Whatever remaining dollars are here, please take them from my credit card. Alternatively, and what is the majority of the option, is the self-delayed pledge, or the DSP. That can be done by ultimately committing to, after 60 days of ride, you will have reached your minimum fundraising efforts. So that gives you ultimately 2 months and 2 weeks, so 2.5 months, to be able to raise those fundraising dollars. And as we're often on a bit of a buzz after ride, you still will have an opportunity to use that enthusiasm to leverage that for additional fundraising dollars. So do not let that stop you. We highly encourage you to please take advantage and go online, get that online check-in done by August the 16th. You will receive your jersey, all the information you need prior to ride in the mail. You can even wear your jersey on a few rides before you see us on the 29th. So that's for the minimum fundraising effort. Next slide here, we're going to talk and just discuss a couple of the logistical elements. A couple last minute reminders, so to speak, that we really want to ensure. So again, we spoke to the check-in, easily indicated here, checking in by August the 16th. For those of you who are new to ride, ultimately this is your final step. Okay, for those of you who've done it many, many times, or you may be team captains that are online, please share with your riders and encourage them to get this done. If there's any questions, curiosities, or any challenges throughout that process, please do reach out to myself or my colleagues, and let's help move those riders through that process, okay? Ultimately having everyone done. The final of that step is going to be your tent selection. We've had a couple questions in its regard. Ultimately, it does require a request of you to be tenting with someone, and once that tent request is available to you, then you can agree or disagree to that tent request. Again, if there's any challenges with that, please feel free to connect with us. But 9 simple steps. Let's get it done. Do note that that's a Sunday, August the 16th. So if you want to just bump it up to the 14th on a Friday so people can get that done before their weekend, feel free to share that with your team. Therefore, we do request that the check-in is between 5:30 and 6:30. No later arrivals than 6:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. For those of you who have never done ride before, the opening ceremonies are incredibly inspiring, and they are a phenomenal community energy for which can actually really not be completely described. So I highly encourage that your friends, family, colleagues, supporters, maybe people who couldn't even participate in ride are all there for that on-site moment at the beginning of start. Next up, our next reminder. Checking in, and bike drop-off. So our bike drop-off can be done at the Cloverdale Fairgrounds. Bike drop-off can also be done on the Friday. So the evening prior, between 3 p.m. and 8 p.m., we are going to have an information desk set up there. This is a bit of insider knowledge, being that you're on the KPMG call. We're going to allow this to be shared. Essentially, it's the very first year that we're going to allow the luggage to be dropped off as well. So on the Friday, you can come and drop your bicycle off, you can come and drop your luggage off, and you can do anything else that you may need. Change out of a jersey, you need your license plate altered, perhaps you have the wrong wristband, etc. So you can do all of that on the Friday evening, okay? Something I just want to do make a very, very important note about, that if you are dropping off your luggage, especially for outer-towners that may want to really maximize on that last minutes of sleep that they can get prior to coming in on the Saturday, you're definitely going to want to ensure your passport is on your body, that did not go into the luggage, that goes onto the truck, because Saturday morning trying to find that in amongst thousands and thousands of bags, you can imagine, would be a challenge. So just ensure you've got your passport on you if there's anything we share with you today, okay? Next reminder, our start location, so it's Cloverdale Rodeo and Exhibition Fairgrounds. The address is there. Ceremonies start at 7 a.m. prompt. We can even move into the next slide from here. One thing that we definitely want to encourage is essentially knowing where to find our information and resources. So it's always important to know where you can source things. It always alleviates any stress or concern or curiosities. So first and foremost is your website resources. So route maps are up. Your packing list is up and available for you, parking information, start, camp, and finish addresses. What does that mean for friends and family? Blue Cross insurance link, all of that is available to you. And again, if you need a walkthrough, feel free to connect with any of us. We'll help ensure that you move through that process so that you're feeling free, open, excited, enthusiastic, and ready and inspired for this ride come the 29th. On Friday, again, 3 till 8, and Saturday morning, you can get your golden helmet with us. You can also get your armbands for the safety team, etc. Luggage drop-off, jersey exchange, all those things can be done. So reach out to your ride guides, team captains, Danielle, or myself, if there's any questions in regards to the logistics or the move through of the online check-in. That's what we're here for, is to ensure you're feeling supported, inspired, and well-informed. And I think we're ready for the next slide. Awesome. And this is the last one. Ultimately, we want to ensure that you are celebrating. This ride is a culmination of a 1 year of effort. It is really essentially your day. It's your weekend. It's your ride. So take moments to really take it all in and really breathe deep and really connect with your other riders, with your teammates, with the full experience of it all, because you're all up to something really big, to be committing to raising a minimum of $2,500 and riding the 240 kilometers that we're doing this year for Ride. So may I be the first to say congratulations that we're almost there, but definitely take that opportunity to really celebrate, whether it's first start, whether it's at camp or finish. This is really your ride, and we're here to celebrate with you. And so we really encourage all of your friends and family to come out for those events. So we definitely, this is a moment of the more is the merrier, so please encourage your community to come out and support you as well. So cheers to you, your ride's almost here. And I think that's probably it from me.
Very good. Well, thank
Last
you.
minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jennifer. We appreciate all those final fundraising tips to help push you folks to your fundraising goal and beyond. Remember, you can keep on fundraising up until that last day. So fundraise past your goal. We appreciate all those on-event reminders as well. Again, if there was anything that was not covered in that section, please feel free to write a question. We're already receiving a few questions here from our panelists, from our attendees. So feel free to send us a question, and we're going to answer those questions at the end of this webinar in our supercharged Q&A. So once again, thank you to Jennifer. Next up, folks, I'd like to introduce Pete Stace Smith from Norco, the official bike partner of the ride, and he's going to be telling you all about your final training tips and bike tips. Pete, you there?
You betcha, Chris. Can you hear me?
I can indeed, Pete.
Perfect. Okay, I'll jump right in. I haven't seen the slides you have coming up here, I don't think, anyway, so I'll let you just move those slides along as need be. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today and listening. Thanks, Jennifer, for that excellent stuff on sort of last-second fundraising and whatnot. We've all seen it all, and those are some really fabulous points, so great stuff. What I'm going to do today and cover is sort of 3 key topics: training, nutrition, and kind of final notes. These have all been sort of assembled and have come from experience of 17 completed rides. I just finished the 17th ride, supporting the 17th ride last weekend in Alberta. Norco has been the official bike and tech support sponsor for 5 years now, and we did a couple of years before that. And I've had the pleasure of being to actually all 4 rides right across the country for the last couple of years. So definitely really excited to be involved again. These are as Jennifer mentioned, these are fabulous events that you guys should be really proud of being a part of. They're very well run, and just, you know, even for us as tech support and bike sponsors, we're really happy to be involved with these. So anyways, be proud of what you're doing. Anyways, I'm going to jump in with a couple things right now. My first one was on training. couple of points that, again, just it seems like common knowledge, but again, a lot of people don't realize that. You kind of want to, think about reducing your volume of training the week before the Ride to Conquer Cancer. You want to show up to that start line on that Saturday morning absolutely full of energy and not feeling tired from trying to pack in some final kilometers of training. So make sure you reduce your volume and come in feeling all frisky and rested and ready for it. Also don't go out on your biggest ride of the year the weekend before the ride. Get those big rides 2 or 3 weeks out. So what that means is kind of like this weekend and next weekend, you want to do your biggest rides. Even if you can't get your head wrapped around like a 100-kilometer ride, try to do 2 back-to-back rides, because a lot of people that we meet on the ride on day 2 that potentially could be struggling a bit have never done back-to-back rides. So even if you say, I'm really only good for a 50 or 60K ride today, try to do a 50 or 60K ride on a Saturday and then back that up with another 50 or 60K ride on a Sunday. Get those in and get those done back-to-back, and then you'll start to get a feel of how you're going to feel day 2 of the big ride weekend. Keep in mind too, even if you've been training over the last couple months, and there's a pretty good chance if you're listening to this webinar, you've probably taken this seriously and you've probably done some training. You're no longer in your strength training zone. You need to allow your body to rest and recover. So just do a couple of shorter, easier rides. Make sure your bike's working properly. Make sure your legs are staying fresh. Keep your midweek rides just sort of short and, like I say, short and frisky, just to keep everything smooth and working well. As we move into nutrition, again, seems like common sense, but we talk to people that screw it up on a regular basis. Don't try any new foods the day before a ride or even during the Ride to Conquer Cancer. Just stay with what works for you and what you've had the couple of days prior to your longer weekend rides over the last couple of weeks or over the next week or two. Feel free about eating a few more carbohydrates the 2 or 3 days leading up to the event. That's called carbo loading. You might have heard that term, but things like the image shows there, a nice big plate of pasta, or even mixed carb drinks. Like even a gel mixed in with water in your water bottle. Gives you some additional carbs and whatnot. Make sure to drink enough water or energy drinks and consume enough food during the ride. Again, we had a beautiful hot ride in Alberta last weekend, and people start out and they get all into it and everything else, and they realize at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon that their water bottle that they filled in the morning only has an inch done, and they haven't had any water all day, and they've already completed 60 or 70 kilometers. And really they start to power out pretty quick if you're not keeping your body hydrated, especially if it's a warm day and you're sweating and whatnot. So a real rough rule is a bottle an hour. So a water bottle an hour is a good sort of place to aim at. Or even every time you stop at a pit area, make sure your bottle's empty. If it's not empty, finish it off before you fill it again. That way there you're at least getting a water bottle every 20 to 30 kilometers type of thing. If it's really hot, make sure to have an electrolyte drink or electrolyte replacements or pills so you don't cramp up. A lot of people, again, later in the day, especially if it's hot, are getting cramps, leg cramps and calf cramps that they've never had before. And that's strictly electrolyte or salt type replacement. So, installing 2 water bottle cages on your bike is a great one. I've always done that for years, and I have water in one, plain just water in one, and a mixture of some type of electrolytes in the other. And at every one of these aid stations, there is both of these options available, so you can top off your bottles. And if one of those is low, top it off and make sure you drink some electrolytes during the day as well. A suggestion also, again, we find these out the hard way on the tech support, when the people come into pits. Do yourself a favor, if you don't have it already, pick up and use proper bike water bottles. This sounds like, like it might be a sales pitch for water bottles, but it really isn't. People will pick up their normal screw top bottles from wherever, they get them in their 12 packs or whatever, and try to use those in a water bottle cage. And they are not a standard size, so they just rattle around. They'll eject out if you go over a bump over a set of railway tracks or whatever. They also have screw top lid, which means you can't really use them while you're riding. You have to come to a full stop, get it out, take the lid off and whatnot. So you end up just drinking less. So do yourself a favor and pick up a couple of water bottles. Also, some people prefer cool drinks. They make beautiful insulated water bottles that will just slide into a standard cage. And at every of these rest areas of all the different rides I've been at, there's usually ice available. So if you like your drinks cold, you can scoop a bit of ice into your water bottle and top it off with an electrolyte or a water type drink. Also, when you finish up, during the next couple of weeks during your big rides, as well as on ride day, Try to have some protein and carbs to eat as soon as you can and when you get off the bike, and that will help a quick recovery process as well. Don't just wait around and try to eat 4 or 5 hours later. Your body's in need, make sure you fill it. A couple other bike and sort of some small other tips. If you're in any question at all about how your bike's doing, have your bikes tuned up by a local bike shop about 2 weeks prior to the event. So again, that's about now. And keep in mind that during a busy season, we've had a beautiful summer in the Vancouver area, that a lot of these bike shops are quite busy. So you may have to actually, when you call these guys and say, I want a tune-up or a check-over, they may say it's a 10-day wait or 2-week wait. Keep in mind, you don't have to necessarily drop your bike off. You can make that booking, that appointment, and say, okay, I'll bring it back in on, Monday, 2 weeks from now, and get that done, or whatever. So, but if you are in any kind of question, make sure that you have it done. The key on if you are going to get some work done is make sure that you have time post tune-up to have a couple of rides. So in other words, don't plan to pick that up on the Friday that you're going to drive to Cloverdale to drop your bike off, because we deal with a lot of bikes over the first 2 or 3 checkpoints that they've just got their bike back from a tune-up the night before, they dropped it off, and something's not right. And again, this could be a cable stretching, or something's not running right, or even in transport something got bumped and the gears aren't working or whatever. So you want to make sure that you've had a couple of rides on the bike after it's been worked on to make sure everything's dialed in. Also, parts on your bike, not like a car or anything else, parts do wear out and they will require replacing. Check sort of key items. The ones I'd sort of look at the most would be either brake pads and or tires. Things like handlebar tape. If you want to retape your bars before the event, that's great, but that's not going to make or break your ride. Whereas, a tire failure from a big, crack in a tire or a cut will sideline you. So make sure that you take a look at this kind of stuff. If you're unsure, take it to a local bike shop, ask them to say, hey, this tire's looking worn, or is this cut something I should worry about? And they'll let you know. So really take a look at rear tires, because that's something that, again, we end up seeing when people are brought into our pit areas, with some type of a support vehicle, because they've had an absolute tire failure from a big blowout from a tear in a tire or something like that. And a lot of those are avoidable by just taking a look at them prior to the ride. If your brake pads wear out on a ride, or your handlebar tape finally comes undone, we are there. We'll do our best to replace it, but we may not have the exact items that you're looking for. Whereas if you get that done over the next couple of weeks, you'll be a little happier for that. Also, if you're using clipless style shoes and pedals, do yourself a favor and don't forget to flip your shoes over and check your cleat bolts. It's amazing to me how many people come by our booth in these rides and their cleats have come loose. And this may not sound like a big deal, except that when you go to flick your heel to unclip from the pedal, if your cleat is loose, it just pivots on the bottom of your shoe and you don't come unclipped. And we had people come to a dead stop, go to unclip, their cleat just rotates and they just fall over because they actually can't release their cleat. So again, make sure that these cleat bolts are tight, and also take a look at your actual cleats, because a lot of people over the couple thousand kilometers of training they've done this year, over the last couple of years, they may have actually worn these cleats out. If they're worn out, again, scoot by a local bike shop and pop some new cleats on. They're not super expensive, and they will be so much better than trying to clip in and clip out with old, worn out cleats that you'll wonder why you didn't do that already by now. Also, if you're doing any sort of changes of adjustments or fit to your bike, try not to do that again too close to your ride. If you think you would like your stem a little bit higher, or you want to put a rise stem, or you want to change your saddle or the angle of your saddle or the height, try to do that like now over the next week or so, week or 10 days, so that even if it's perfect, your body and your muscles will have time to adapt to that new position, and so that your ride will only be that much more comfortable a couple weeks from now. And then also know what to wear, like as far as clothing, depending on the weather. Everybody has a weather app on their phone, and take a really good look at what it's going to be in Vancouver and Cloverdale, maybe Mount Vernon, Seattle, and give yourself a good idea of what to expect. I mean, we just had, like I say, a fabulous weekend this weekend, but back in Toronto earlier this year on day 2, halfway through, it just started to pour. And be prepared for that. Carry a second set of kit in your bag, your overnight bag. Make sure that if it is going to possibly rain, we are in the Pacific Northwest here, and it does rain up in our area. Make sure to carry a small shell jacket. And again, look at the average temperatures during the day. And if it's going to be less than, let's say, a 15 degrees or even less, make sure that you have a long sleeve shirt. You don't have to show up in that only wearing that beautiful short sleeve Ride to Conquer Cancer jersey that you get given. You can have a long sleeve tech shirt underneath that and pull your Ride to Conquer Cancer jersey over top of that. So be prepared. Be prepared for the weather. Be prepared for heat, rain, all of that. One little thing that also I'll talk, Chris, if I have another second, is correct nameplate installation on your bike. And again, we chuckle, but we'd be amazed at how many times we have to, in the first 2 or 3 pit stops, we have to cut people's nameplate off their bike and relocate it. There is a couple little videos and how-tos on where to locate it, but keep in mind it's near the front, near the head tube of the bike, like underneath the handlebars, not back under the saddle. Reason for that is if it's located up front, the wind, when it flaps by it, will keep it sort of flapping like a flag, whereas if it's facing forward near the saddle, it flaps side to side and it just ends up cutting people's legs up. Same with the zip ties. When you zip tie around the top tube, be careful not to zip tie the cables right to the top tube. So it's actually got to go under the cables and not clamp them to the top tube. And then also cut off all the unused portion of the zip ties with a pair of scissors or side cutters and tuck them right out of the way so they're not scratching up your legs or whatnot. And final points for everyone, don't forget, this isn't a race. Don't get sort of, sucked into riding along with a faster group above your ability or above your comfort level. Really do enjoy this ride. Remember who you're riding for. Think about them, share the ride with them. Be really proud of what you're doing because you are doing a fabulous thing here. If you need any help with your bikes along the way, come on by the Norco tents. We're at all the different pit areas. We're at the overnight spot. We're here to fully help you enjoy your ride too, and so we will supply tech support for you guys and support you in your ride. So have a great ride, and if there's any other questions that come up, I think we have an open session, and Mike and Chris is going to handle that now. But have a great ride, all of you. Back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Pete. Some wealth of information there, guys. All that great information for you to take into the ride weekend. If we did not answer some of your questions throughout this webinar, folks, like I said, now is a great time to submit your question in our GoToWebinar control panel there, and we're going to start answering some of those questions right now. That's going to be Pete, Jennifer, myself, and Julian, who will be joining us to help answer some of those questions. So I'm just going to go down the list here and see some of these questions that we've received. And at any point, panelists, feel free to jump in if you have an answer to that question. Our very first question that I see is a passport question. Is an enhanced driver's license okay?
Yeah, so it's Julian. I'll jump in on that one. Basically, however you can legally cross the border, that's what you need. We do ask for passport information if you're doing OCI. Please throw your passport number into there, but an enhanced license or your Nexus is also fine. However you would normally cross is perfectly acceptable.
Very good. Perfect. Thanks, Julian. Next question. I am only at 70-ish kilometers in training. It is basically all hills. I am wondering about the elevation of the classic ride that ends in Cloverdale.
Chris, I could jump in really quickly.
Sure.
It's Pete here. If that rider has done 70 kilometers of hilly riding, I would say that they are ready for the event. I mean, what happens on event day is you will be, I'm going to say supercharged by the event just vibe, and like Jennifer says, you'll just feel lifted by the vibe and by all the other people around you, whatnot. So, don't get worried if you've only done a 70K ride and the first day it might be 110 or 115. If you're worried about the classic ride versus the challenge ride, just stay with the classic ride. That's what most of the riders do anyways. It's the main supported route, and you can certainly do that. It's got, might have a few rolling hills on it. You might curse me later when you say this is what Pete called a rolling hill, but generally speaking, it's not a huge elevation gain and loss ride compared to some of the other rides. So if that rider has done 70K, he or she is definitely ready. Come on out and have a great ride. And like I say, going back to what I was mentioning, maybe this weekend try to do a 70K and try to do a 50K the next day if you can squeeze in back-to-back rides, just to see how your legs feel doing a couple of rides back-to-back right prior to that event weekend.
Perfect. Fantastic. I completely agree. Next question that I have here, I heard that survivors get a yellow flag. Is this still the case, and when do they get them?
Yeah, Julian again. Absolutely, it's still the case. You'll be able to get these flags at bike parking on the Friday, or the Saturday. We'll have them there. We'll help you get them set up. Yeah, it'll be all waiting for you.
Perfect.
Another thing on that, if you are a rider within this and you either get passed by or pass a rider with a yellow flag, make sure that you congratulate them on being here on the ride. It's always good to have those people with us. So, and generally speaking, they are very, very happy to be there as well.
Brilliant. And to that point, since we did just mention bike drop off, this is a follow-up question to that. Do we have to drop off bikes or can we bring them with us?
You can absolutely bring them with you. The bike drop off is just an option. It's available to, if people want to drop it off in advance to come to site a little lighter in the morning. But absolutely, if you want to keep your bike with you, go right ahead.
Very good. Another question here. Will the route be available digitally for download into Bike GPS?
I'll have to double check that on our end, but currently on the website, it is available through Google Maps, which I know can be taken down into a KVM or KML file. I'll just have to check the user end on that to see if that's possible, but we can definitely make that happen.
Great. Another bike drop-off question. Do we need to bring a lock when we drop the bike off?
Definitely not. Our bike parking is fully secured. We have security there. We have our own bike parking teams helping you get things sorted out. You don't have to worry about your bikes when they're in our bike parking whatsoever.
Brilliant. This is a fundraising question here. This might be for you, Jennifer. With the delayed donation on your credit card, if you have completed the minimum amount, does it automatically get removed or do we have to do some sort of redo?
Okay, that's a great question. If I understood it correctly, is the question that if you've already hit your minimum, then you actually wouldn't be required to place your credit card there. So it's purely if you have not reached your minimum that it would be required to do a self-delayed pledge or an instant self-pledge. Alternatively, you'll just proceed without there being any questions in its regard. So, and again, something just to note there, if you have not reached your minimum and you've chosen the delayed self-pledge, it will take a $2 charge from your credit card to ensure that it works. And that will go to your fundraising efforts, but ultimately that money, the remainder, would not be taken until 60 days after. If you have reached your minimum within that time, your credit card will not be touched.
Very good. Thank you very much, Jennifer. For the purposes of online check-in, will the EDL work for that?
Again, we prefer Passport for that. It's easier for the porter to look it up. If you've already done it and put in the EDL, that's fine. But if you haven't done it and you're just deciding which one to use, Passport would be preferred.
Perfect. Another question here. I can't seem to find the route on the website. Can you please point me in the right direction? In terms
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to help with that one. So ultimately, you're going to go under www.conquercancer.ca. Then from there, you're going to choose BC as our province of ride. Then the second tab over on the very, very top column on the top bar, you're going to see Join Us, and the second one is called About the Ride. From About the Ride, you're going to click on that and come down to the third tab, which says Ride Weekend Event Details. You're going to click on that, and you're just going to scroll down. There's going to be a number of different informative pieces there, from accommodations, ceremonies, parking, da-da-da-da. The second one is called Route Information. It will say, please click here for your classic route, challenge, or day 2 return. All of it's really well indicated there. You can click it. It's downloadable. You can print it, etc.
Very good, very good. Have a question here, Pete. This is probably for you, sir. Should I bring a patch for my tire, or will I be able to get help if I get a flat?
Yeah, good question. First thing is, patch kits to me for road bikes, and this is probably a road bike, not a mountain bike or something else, are kind of a last resort. The first thing I would recommend doing is scooting by a local bike shop and picking up 1 or even 2 spare tubes of the correct size for your bike. That'll probably be a 700 by 18 to 23C tube, probably Presta valve if you're running a road bike. Pop those spare tubes in your under saddle bag. And if you don't have one of those, again, you should probably get one of those with a couple of tire levers and a pump, or else you won't be changing a flat anyways. And don't worry about this, even if you don't have the knowledge to do this. A, there's people floating on course that are like, I'm going to say roadside mechanics. B, there's riders that are actual mechanics that are entered in the ride and riding just like you are, but are additional mechanics. And C, there is support at every pit stop and at the halfway overnight spot. So if A, you had a flat en route, another rider will most likely pull over and give you a hand anyways, and or one of these tech people that are floating along route, and or if you have a slow leak, if you come into one of our tech areas, there's a good chance we will say, don't worry about your tube, you keep your tube, we'll pop a tube in it for you anyways, and get that done while you go get water and get hydrated up at a pit area or overnight. But if you come prepared and you have a couple of your tubes, there's about a 99% chance you will not have any issues anyways. Why I don't recommend patch kits is, unless it's done absolutely perfectly under perfect conditions, a normal patch cannot re-handle 105 or 110 psi, which you will get if once the road heats up and you put 100 psi in your tires, it will heat up and get even harder. So it just ends up not blowing the patch off, because the patch can't come right off, but it will end up letting the air out underneath that patch. So generally speaking, when I get a flat on the road, and I ride lots on the road, if I get a flat, I just check the inside of the tire to make sure I've got whatever it is out of the tire that did cause the flat, and then I pop a new tube in and go on my way that way. So a couple of tubes is more recommended than a patch kit. Hope that answers the question.
Very good. Excellent. Thanks, Pete. And I'm going to do one final question here. This is a great question. What is the best way for volunteers to step up? I assume that means on the ride weekend.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one for sure. We could not run this event without volunteers. We are always looking for more volunteers. We have two options for volunteers. We have just sort of our general volunteer team, which is typically 2 to 4 hours on one of our sites, helping to set it up and get it all ready for riders. But we also have our amazing crew members who are 2-day volunteers who camp out with us in Mount Vernon. And we are still looking to fill some teams. We're looking for truck drivers. We're looking for, sweep and road teams, all kinds of stuff like that. Best thing to do there, either you can find it on the website and sign up that way, or give us a call, say, you're interested in volunteering, and you'll be directed to the right person. It's going to be Emma Cunnington, and she would be happy to lay out all the options for you.
Very good. That is fantastic. All righty, folks, that is the end of our Q&A here. If I may, we actually just got a comment too that I would like to read out loud, because I think it's lovely, and we appreciate this. We appreciate what you do for the ride. I have participated in many charity events, and the Ride to Conquer Cancer has been the most amazing experience when needing advice and support. Very motivating. I will definitely be participating next year, and my husband is so envious of my journey through this experience and will be purchasing a bike so he can ride with me. Stephanie, we appreciate that comment. And again, we do appreciate you being a part of the Ride to Conquer Cancer. Folks, thank you so much for joining us on today's webinar. If we did not answer your question, head to our website. Most of that information should be on there. If you still can't find it there, go ahead and email our Ride to Conquer Cancer office, and we'll make sure to get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Thank you so much for joining us, and throughout this webinar series brought to you by KPMG. Again, this webinar was recorded today and will be up on the Ride Map to Success page shortly, as well as the YouTube Ride to Conquer Cancer page, in case you missed anything or you wanted to send this off to your friends and families. Have a great rest of your day and have a fantastic ride. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.